Today, we're talking about 6 things people get wrong about the G37. And there is a lot of stuff said about the G37 here, and unfortunately, a lot of it is just more opinion rather than actual facts. We're gonna go through those straight up lies and misconceptions about the G37 and VQ so you can know once and for all what's real and what is not. Let's do it. And starting off with number 1, and it's that mods don't add 50 horsepower. I'll often get comments of people saying, oh, you know, you just installed an intake. Did it make like 50 more horsepower? And that is just simply not true. And one thing I want to be clear about is we're going to be talking about wheel horsepower, not engine horsepower. We're talking about the horsepower the car is physically making to the ground. So let's say you have some bolt-ons, maybe some intakes, injectors, and some test pipes. Realistically, those mods would make you about 15 to 20 horsepower apiece. Now, I know this because this car did exactly that. This car has injectors, intake, and test pipes along with a tune, and it made 340 wheel horsepower. Stock, the G37 has 280 wheel horsepower. 280 plus 60, 341, right at about a 61 horsepower gain. And that shows, you know, you don't just throw one modification on the car and it makes 50 horsepower. You know, for example, you hear Supras, you just downpipe in a tune and oh hey, you just made 75 to 100 horsepower. That may be true with a very tunable turbo car like the Supra. For a naturally aspirated car like the G37, it's just not the case. Realistically, if you could squeeze out about 15 to 20 horsepower for every bolt-on upgrade that you do, that's gonna be pretty solid. It's just super important to remember. It's not just you throw in a modification, oh, that's 60 horsepower. Which brings us to number 2. You cannot make 400 wheel horsepower naturally aspirated. All the time. When I say I make 340 wheel horsepower with this car, I'll get comments and people saying, wait, but the G37 makes 330 horsepower stock. That's only like 10 more. Oh my gosh. I get people just like might not be educated or they're maybe just learning, getting new into car stuff. You just have to understand the difference between wheel horsepower and horsepower. When you hear people saying like, yeah, my G37 makes 380 horsepower, and they've just got like a few bolt-ons, they might not necessarily be lying, but it's definitely also not true. What they might be referring to is the horsepower that the engine is making, not the car as a whole. It's pretty good practice to say the wheel horsepower. That's just what your car is actually putting to the ground. It's the realistic number. But let's talk some real numbers on the G37. In terms of making the most power possible while staying naturally aspirated on the G37, you're realistically looking to get about 350 to 360. Like I said earlier, if maybe you get up to 25 horsepower each with those bolt-ons, this is about what you would get to. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. There are definitely a lot of things that can kind of change the numbers from different dynos and even temperature on the day that you get tuned, but that is really where you're going to roughly be around. And obviously that's good. Making 350 to 360 naturally aspirated is an awesome number, which is why I don't really get why people need to say, oh, 400 horsepower naturally aspirated. It's just not true. There is not a single G37 or VQ out there that is naturally aspirated that is making that much. Obviously, that's not including nitrous because that's still technically naturally aspirated, but we're not gonna include nitrous. Turbo, nitrous, supercharger, boosting it, like that can easily make 500 horsepower plus. But with just some simple bolt-ons and a tune, you are just not getting to that number. I'm sorry. Now, we're gonna be looking at number 3 on the list, and it is intakes make less horsepower. So as we could see, I am running an aftermarket long tube cold air intake. And normally with the stock intakes, they stop about right here as opposed to those long tube up in the front. And funny enough, you'll hear people say that intakes make less horsepower. And it's just simply not true. Every G37 build that is making some kind of power is going to have the similar style long tube cold air intakes. And that's because these long tube intakes go to the front of the car, getting way fresher air. The further away you can get from this hot engine right here and get it to some more cold and fresh air, the more power you're going to make. Cold air makes more power. Now, I think I understand where a lot of people do get confused in this though. These are aftermarket short tube intakes. As you can see, they are closer in the engine bay. These are what's known in the VQ community as the hot air intakes. They are a little bit more tucked in than even the stock air boxes. And because of that, it's closer to the engine, soaking in more hot air. And hot air makes less power. that aftermarket intake actually does make less power. And I think that's the reason people think aftermarket intakes don't make you more power. We're mixing up two completely different kind of intakes. It's important that they are long tube intakes. So moral of the story, long tube intakes, best for making power. Stock intakes, decent, they're okay. And the short tube, bad, like very bad. Like if you currently have those, it is literally better that you go back to the stock ones. They are currently making you less power than the stock ones. Now it's time for number 4 on the list, and it's that the exhaust is always bad. It's probably one of the most popular things about these cars, unfortunately. People say the VQ sounds like a trumpet, it's like one of the worst sounding engines. And listen, as a VQ owner, I can't necessarily disagree. Most VQs do sound really bad. Like literally horrible. Like there's definitely more bad than good in the terms of the VQ. But what I will absolutely not agree with is that all VQs sound bad. Now, I think these cars can actually sound fantastic. You can get a great sounding VQ, but you have to do it right. You have to do a little bit of research and spend a little bit of money. And unfortunately, in the VQ community, that's just not what a lot of people do. And I think there's a reason for that. I think what a lot of people fail to understand is that VQs are incredibly cheap cars to get into. With cheap cars, you get cheap modifications. Now, let's really think about it here. Most times, the 16-year-old that just got his first VQ isn't gonna go out and think about spending $800 to thousands of dollars on an exhaust. They're gonna chop off the mufflers and the cats for 200 bucks and call it a day. Is it gonna sound good? No. But is it better than just hearing nothing? It depends. For most like younger people, loud is fine. And I can't lie, I literally did this as well. It sounded like shit. And I was at least aware of that, you know? I knew it sounded horrible. It sounded like there was BBs in the exhaust. I thought that was better than it sounding quiet. But then eventually, after getting a little bit of money and doing a little bit of research, I found what I think is a great sounding exhaust for this car. So obviously I would say no, the VQ doesn't only sound bad. There's people that are just gonna hate no matter what. You do what you like, make it sound good. We're gonna go ahead and go to number 5. And this is kind of a more broad topic, and it's just the topic of E85. Well, you have to be running a flex fuel, or you have to have a bigger fuel pump. Like you have to have those things. Every time. I'm only running injectors in terms of aftermarket fuel upgrades. And guess what? It's worked for over 2 years, 0 problems now. Right under here, I have a set of aftermarket 550cc injectors. No other fueling upgrades, no flex fuel, no fuel pump, and it runs perfectly okay. I talked with my tuner and he said, no, really, that's all you have to do for these. If you're eventually planning on making way more power, obviously, yeah, it'd be good to get them. And in general, it'd probably be smarter to get those things in case there are any problems that arise. But if you want to spend the least amount of money possible and still get tuned on E85, it is all you have to do. Now, after getting tuned, what a lot of people might say is, well, hey, you're not even like forced induction, turbo, supercharger, or anything. Why are you running E85? It's pointless. That is kind of true. If you're just bolt-ons, even full bolt-on, and you're thinking that E85 is gonna make a big difference in power, it realistically isn't going to do a ton. 5 or 6, 7 horsepower. But for real, it's just not going to do a ton. If you're boosting, yes, it's definitely going to make a major difference there. Multiple things to note about E85, not to mention also you get a little bit of worse gas mileage. I know that's another one people don't like. We are entering the end of our list here at number 6, which is probably a huge thing that people say outside of the VQ community, and it's that the G37 is slow. And to be honest, this one's a little confusing to me. Stock, these cars make about 330 horsepower to the engine, which is very good actually. Like there's not too many cars that you can get into, especially at this price with that much horsepower. A car that has an under 6 second 0 to 60, I feel like by no means is slow, especially when it does that stock. Start throwing some bolt-ons, it really gets pretty quick. Take an S550 Mustang for example. This car on a 40 pole kept up with, if not lightly pulled ahead of it. I believe that car might have been stock beside an exhaust, so basically stock, but that's like an almost 500 horsepower car. And this thing was keeping up with it. Not to mention how much cheaper this is than that. Which is why when people call these slow, it's kind of funny because I feel like it's just purely hating on the VQ and G37s because they don't like them. And just calling this thing slow is just a big old fat lie. There you have it. There's our 6 things. What do y'all think should be on this list or maybe shouldn't Do you disagree with any of these? What did I not mention? Please let me know. If I got anything wrong, comment it down below. I respond to basically every single comment on the channel. But with all that being said, I really hope y'all enjoyed watching this video. I make all kind of car content, including a lot on the G37 here. Like, subscribe, all that. Follow along to see what I do to this car and other future videos I make. I really appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much. I love you. Bye.